I'm Eden, and with me are my amazing colleagues. We have Kelly, Calissa, and Clemmy, and we all say welcome. Before we get started, we do just want to take care of a few housekeeping items. Oh, we already have a question. What's up, Richard Darby? Okay. You can put it in the chat if you have a question. I saw that you raised your hand. You're on mute, though. Can you not unmute yourself? Or did you not have a question? Was that an accident? Because you can put it in the chat. I am going to just real quick go over a few housekeeping items, and then hopefully Richard will put something in the chat. Please have your microphones muted when necessary to make sure there's no background noise, but obviously when we do open it up, we do want you to come off mute. As always, please listen deeply so we can really understand what others are saying. And then, of course, embrace this time with yes and. In other words, yes, I have Parkinson's, or I'm a care partner, but I'm so many other things. Be willing to agree and go one step further. We also really want you to move with intention. When you hear good ideas, run with them. And as always, be patient with the technology.
At the top.
Okay. So today's chat storm, have you made any New Year's resolutions? If you want to put those in the chat. I normally do, and actually this year I just didn't. And I don't know why. I actually did read an article that New Year's resolutions are actually effective. So Emily Hall made some. I hope it was something good, Emily. And they are effective in that we should make them. No. You can also say if you did, like, what your resolution was. Like, you know, I know one year I did resolve to be more patient, and that did not work out well. What else does anybody have? Is it the usual health things, like I'm going to go to the gym more often, things like that? Ooh, 30 minutes of reading each day. I will give you book suggestions. 2023 is the year of me. Good thinking, Lori DePorter. I hope that means taking care of yourself. Listen more and talk less. That's really important. Irene says she makes daily intentions. That's wonderful. I hope that also kind of gives you a nice start to your day. Smart goals to make things easier, like try 10 new restaurants, that's a nice specific goal, but also a fun one. Up my savings another $1,000, finish 2 new books, travel to 1 new place, reconnect with old friends. I love these, Emily. I highly recommend The Extraordinary Life of Sam Hell if you're looking for a good book recommendation. Oh, Karen Malkin says she wants to try new things, mountain climbing, learn Greek, and learn more vegan recipes.
At the bottom, you're not on.
Roger also has some book suggestions. BJ says he uses January to reflect and plan because holidays aren't officially over until the Super Bowl. That's funny. And then also finish Parkinson's projects. Judy would like a year free of injury. I hope so too. Allison, I hope you take a trip with your sister. I love these. These are making me happy. So now today we do have, this is not going for me right now. 23 minutes outdoors and indoors. There we go. Today, we're going to actually be talking about secession. I know it seems kind of weird because it is a new year and that seems more like you take on new things as opposed to letting things go. But sometimes that is what a new year looks like. So we want to talk about what that's going to look like. How would this affect your group? And, you know, obviously we still want you to be involved. So what does that look like when you're not taking such an active role? And then as always, we're going to break out into rooms for small group discussion. So I always like levity. So succession planning, keep like, are you prepared should one of you melt? Because every year that's going to happen. And that's the thing with support groups. One person cannot run them indefinitely, or else the support group is going to go away eventually, because other things are going to come up and it can't always be on that one person. So I want you to think about your group. You know, one thing to always keep in mind is whose group is it? And especially when you do so much, you can kind of think of it as your group, especially when you have been doing it for such a long time. It can be hard to separate, but I want you to remember that this group belongs to everyone, not just you. So others can also step up. Understanding yourself and your motivations. What is driving you? Are you worried that you would lose yourself if you're not part of this group, if you're not running the group? Are you concerned no one would run it as well as you? Are you wanting to step down and maybe no one else is stepping up? So you're kind of like, I would like to put somebody else in place and nobody else wants to do it. And then this group kind of becomes your obligation, which is not what you wanted. Also, what parts of the group are going to be hard to imagine giving up? Because we want you to continue being with the group. I was kind of thinking as I was doing these slides, you know, this isn't Survivor and you're just suddenly voted off the island. That's not what this is. This would just be you kind of stepping down, but still being a part of it. You just don't have to do everything. And so one thing I do want you, as I'm talking, I'm doing a lot of reframing here because I feel like sometimes this can be just such a, you can kind of have some irrational thoughts about your place in the group, that the group would just fall apart without me. And let's inject some rational thoughts. Like once upon a time, you took over from somebody else. And there might have been a few bumps and hiccups, but the group is clearly still here and thriving. So that's going to happen for somebody else too. And hopefully you would mentor as you were mentored, or if you weren't mentored, you would mentor anyway. And let's kind of just look at this in like a more positive light, as opposed to if I do it, if I don't do it, it's just not going to work. That's important. So now here's kind of our planning guide. We really had to kind of come up with this because if you were to kind of Google this, you're going to just get a lot of business succession plans. I did kind of look at them, what I saw online, and it does actually work out to a lot of what we've done for support groups, meaning like you would identify key areas and positions like the co-leader, leader, treasurer, if you collect funds. Will these slides be? Yes, these slides will be made available after the meeting. And what responsibilities do these have? But then you also want to identify capabilities for key areas and positions. And again, that's based on like business models. So I would say to keep it simple, well, what's needed for these positions? Keeping in mind that this isn't a business. So you don't need these strongly qualified people. You're not looking for advanced degrees and years of experience. You're looking for commitment and willingness more than anything. You know, what is this person going to be doing? What is the role? What are some needed qualities? For example, you don't want a very introverted person to be your greeter. So again, doesn't need to be something crazy. You don't need a master's degree in social work, for example, but you need to be happy and friendly. You know, you need to be able to say, hi, welcome to our group. What's your name? Let me get you a name tag if you don't already have one, or hi to such and such. How are you doing? And then you also want to identify the people who would do well in these positions. If somebody kind of says, you know, I don't necessarily want to lead the group when it's a caring and sharing, but I would help schedule a speaker, you know, that'd be a great co-leader. Again, what is someone willing to do? This is a transition. We do want you to think about some training, 2 months of overlap, to help make this person successful and give them support. Okay. And of course, as we talked about, I understand this is not a job, but there's still a job description. So what does it entail? Is it sending out emails? Is it scheduling the speakers, handling the caring and sharing, setting up snacks? Who wants to do these things? Who would be good at these things? And always I talk about, you want to be honest about the time commitment. If this is 15 minutes a week, I mean, it's usually not, but I'm just saying, but if it's also 5 hours, you want to tell people that. I feel like it's better to be upfront and kind of let people know, here's the full picture, so they can make an informed decision. Because you really don't want to say, this is wonderful, this, you won't even know you have to do this. And that's not the case. And then somebody winds up saying, you know, hey, I did this for 2 months and this is not the picture you painted. It's a lot easier to just be upfront and kind of say, hey, this is, you know, what it is. And then also kind of say, for example, like somebody might have that commitment and want to do it, the drive, but they travel a lot, for example. That might not be your best bet. So you do kind of want to think about these things when you're looking at transition. And then, of course, you want to start weeding out who expresses interest and who would be good versus those who are just like, I have too much on my plate. I'm happy to attend this group, but I don't want to lead it. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. A lot of people are very happy to attend the support group, but would not want to take it over, which is why transitioning and succession can be so hard. Ideally, you want to have 2 people, so that this way you kind of have a backup in mind. I would say you kind of want to assess them and see who really wants to do this, and then kind of say, hey, let's maybe start working together and start training you in everything, because you do want this to be something positive and that's something somebody's going to want to continue. You can also consider electing the position, but I would say usually what you kind of want to do is, unless 10 people are saying, hey, I want to be the leader, I want to be the leader, you probably, that's probably not what's going to happen. You're probably just going to have to ask. But the big thing is you want to do this before you become tired, before you become burnt out. I know that sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. Like you might just suddenly get something on your 10 things on your plate you didn't expect. But that's not the same as being burnt out. I think that when you feel like this has become more of an obligation than something you want to do, and it's the sort of thing that you're not necessarily excited about. Maybe when the meeting is over, you're like, I'm glad I did it. But when you think about the meeting, you're just sort of like, I have to go do this, as opposed to like, I'm going to go do my support meeting. Then that's kind of your clue in that you're getting a little burnt out, and that it's probably time to find your successor, plan to train that person, have some overlap. But that's also where we say we don't want you to be at that point where you're like, I am done, I have had it, when you still have maybe a couple of months to maybe try and work with somebody. So we really want you to start thinking about this, which is why we're bringing it up now before you're at that point. And so now we're going to break out and we're going to ask, have you set up a succession plan? If you have, yay, and you can maybe share that with the group. What does that look like? What has your group discussed? How has this worked? Because everybody wants to know this information. But also, what would happen if you didn't lead your group? I think that a lot of people kind of will say, you know, I don't know if it would last if I wasn't leading it. And sometimes, so what could we do where if I didn't lead this group, it would still last? What are people doing? How are people working with this to overcome? Because, you know, like I can think of a certain place in Georgetown that, to be honest, I don't know what would happen if the woman in charge wasn't there, because she's just a force. And I would say it'd probably take at least 20 people to replace her. But at some point, this might not be what she wants to do anymore. What would happen if she stepped away? And so these are just things to think about. We're going to take about 45 minutes. And I have one request from Kelly to Kelly. I'm just going to put in the chat real quick. And then she's going to put you in your breakout rooms. Did you get that, Kelly? I just want to make sure. Okay. Before we go, let me also put in the chat questions. Does anybody have any questions before we go into our breakout rooms? Okay. And then I guess we're good to go. Welcome back, everyone. We're glad to see everyone. So we're going to go back and just, talk about the question was, have you set up a succession plan and what would happen if you no longer led your group? I'm going to start with room 1. Corey Tratner, Deborah Coomer, Laura Simmons, Richard Darby, Roger Tregellis, and Virginia Stanley. Did you pick somebody to be your point person to kind of tell us and share with the group?
Well, I guess I sort of got volunteered.
You got nominated. Voluntold.
Yes, I nominated. I almost said anonymous, and that wasn't the right word. We did not come up with a succession plan because I am just starting a group, and there was another person in the room who also was just starting a group. So basically, we really talked about different issues around marketing, different issues around putting fun activities into the meeting so that it isn't just constantly a downer. We spent a lot of time talking about Zoom versus in person versus hybrid and what works and what doesn't work. Putting things up on Facebook or have a website so people can go to it during the month. Most people run their groups monthly, but there was one gentleman who runs the group weekly, and a couple people who ran like every 2 weeks. And then sort of like balancing between speakers and just sharing. So that's basically what we talked about.
You had a nice productive discussion though about what's working, what's not working,
Yeah.
And then suggestions and stuff. Well, that's wonderful. I'm glad. And how about room 2? We have Ann Miner, Sydney Donahue, Dave, Irene Miller, Judy Dean, Judy Reynolds, and Roger Jenkins. Who was the note taker, the speaker for the group?
I think we neglected those duties. So
Well,
I'll see if I can answer. We kind of got off topic a little bit also, but we went from succession to how to get people to come back after COVID. So anyway.
Those thoughts, please share.
Excuse me, one of our people, Laura, yes, wait a minute. I'm sorry, Irene has a plan that she has in writing for transitioning succession. And she said she's willing to share that with the rest of us, some kind of template possible. So maybe I'll let her talk about that. She was the only one of us that I think that had a really clear succession plan.
So Judy, I think the takeaway from our group is that definitely most of us do not have a succession plan. And we all recognize how important it is, because most of the people in our breakout had been with their group for some time. The groups did kind of evolve through COVID and change, but they recognize the importance of succession planning. I shared with the group on how it came to be that I actually created a succession plan for our group, but now is implementing it. I did share a couple of ideas. I think our biggest roadblock for all of us is getting people to volunteer. One of the gentlemen in our group, I think it was Dave, mentioned that they have kind of a council where in position they rotate. So they already have a plan in place where if you're leading the group, you run the group for 2 years. And on this council or board of directors, or whatever you want to call it, the people stay on, but you're changing the leader. So I thought that was a great idea, and I'm going to kind of incorporate that into some of my thoughts. I also shared with places you can reach out to get volunteers, maybe outside of your group, like interns from universities and things like that. So that's primarily what we shared.
I also came up with the idea that maybe PMD Alliance could come up with a template for a succession plan, kind of like they have templates for living wills and advanced health directives, that kind of stuff. Maybe PMD Alliance could come up with a template for a succession plan.
Thing to do is have everyone line up, and when you say who wants to be the leader, everybody take a step back, and the person who didn't step back becomes the leader.
That's right.
Sneaky.
You guys sounds like you had a great discussion. I'm glad to hear it. But we can work on that, Dave. From room 3, we have Allison Kinney, we have Ben, we have Candace Maley, we have Emily Hall, we have Evelyn Morrison, we have Karen Malkin, we have Karen Schaller, and Kathleen. Did you guys select somebody to speak for you guys?
No, I just took it as usual. No, I'm teasing.
Everyone else stepped back and you were at the front.
That's right. I let the proper amount of time pass where no one said anything, and I said, okay. No, I'm teasing. No, what was interesting about our group is that none of us had the same situation, the same venue. Some were, one was Zoom only. One group's a sharing group, one group's a speaking only group. And it seemed like everyone had a different situation, a different audience. And we talked about how maybe having co-leaders. Some people had a co-leader that they're working with, so if they weren't present, they would have someone as backup. So that, to me, that's the best succession plan right there, is to have it in place when you start, have someone as backup. And then really we talked about how the group's needs change over time. We have one individual who has had a group for a long time, and it seems a little stale now, and I could sense a little bit of frustration. And so we're like, send out an open letter and have a survey and find out what people need and want and everything else. So that's really kind of where we went. It was more of a discussion of everyone's different situations, and we could kind of glean that you shouldn't be doing it all yourself, for one thing. And some people had one person had, go to Starbucks or whatever for snacks. Don't always pay for it yourself. So I think our whole focus was, don't just start out doing it all yourself. Start out, and we do have a couple people just starting a group. So it's good to have this in the front when you first get started, so you have it in your brain. When you get started, have this in mind.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
Did you want to add something, Evelyn? You were kind of agreeing with him.
No, yeah, I was just agreeing.
It is so good to kind of people say start the way you want to continue, because, for example, like I know one situation with the support group leader, she wasn't burnt out or anything. She was planning to continue, and then a health situation arose with her husband, and it was just sort of like Parkinson's really took a back seat when you're suddenly dealing with another health issue that's, more terminal. And so that was just one of those, she kind of felt like overwhelmed, and it was like, I can't do this. And there really wasn't notice or backup. And that was, I kind of stepped in to bridge the gap at that point, but this was not the long-term solution. It was just kind of we have to take it now. So it is always best to have this kind of in place before it's needed. So now room 4, how about we've got Barbara Kelly, we have Larry, we have Myra, we have Patrick Losasso, we have Peggy D, we have Phil Segadelli, we have Bernard, and we have Sandy Dunn. Oh, come on. I know there's not some shy people in this room.
All right, we'll do the mea culpa. First, the same thing happened in our room, but the vacuum was immediately filled by our leader, Phil. So, Phil, with that introduction, it's your baton.
Larry, I thought I was going to bounce that back to you. I just opened up and let everybody introduce themselves, and we really kind of fell away from your 2 questions, Eden, and we started with kind of a general discussion of what each of us, where we were at with our support groups. And Bernard had some interesting, trying to put together what did you call it, Bernard? It was unengaged communities?
Reaching under-engaged communities, yes.
Under-engaged, yeah. And that was and you did you speak at the Washington, D.C.?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But just because he's not going to say anything, Bernard will be speaking with us on February 1st. That's going to be NeuroLife Online. So we can put that in the chat, but just know we're going to be doing that. So yay, Bernard's coming back to talk to us.
Awesome. Awesome. What was I going to say? I had one. Before I forget, I would like Judy Reynolds. It wasn't your plan, but the lady from your group has a template for a succession plan. We don't. I mean, the group that I work with, we don't. I've been running it for about 3 years, and now I'm sharing it. Bernard, step in a little bit, because I got the ball rolling, and then I didn't do most of the talking. Like I said, we just kind of introduced our general group, and then Bernard got us back on track, saying that we had 2 questions that we were trying to answer. Do you mind, Bernard?
No, I don't mind, but the mea into other issues that seem to be of greater interest to the group. And no matter how much we tried to go to the succession question, we got into other things, and some of which has been reflected by other groups, like Zoom versus in person, the need to kind of mix it up a little, the difference in flavors of support group, and therefore the difference in issues that are presented because of the different flavors. So we really didn't spend a lot of time on succession, but we had some valuable insights, like, well, we do have one template, and we also had the benefit of Myra, who's done this for 13 years, and shared a little insight with us about, what has happened over the 13 years with her group. And I won't speak for Myra, she can speak for herself, but along the flavor of the fact that they have kept going with speakers and interesting people. And then one of the insights that we got in on, because it was a very important issue, thanks to another member of our group, we started talking about the Aware and Care Kit and the importance of medicine. But we got there because the topic of having pharmacists come to your meetings with this twist, which we thought was very exciting, they have everybody in the group list their medicines, and then they turn it over to the pharmacist. And many of them have students working with them, and they produced the PowerPoint explaining all the medications. And so that became an educational session for their support group to learn both of about the medicines. And then that had the side effect of empowering people now to have better discussions in pressing for their own good treatment. Did I get that right, Myra? Group? Did I?
You're on mute, Myra, if you want to come off mute and chat. You're still muted, Myra, because I think you're trying to say something.
Got it. Okay. Actually, what we did, people didn't bring their meds in. The pharmacists made up this PowerPoint where they learned about all the meds and all the side effects and all the pluses and minuses of the meds. And they presented this PowerPoint, which I then share with all the people as well. But the side effect that I really like is the fact that we've got these were graduate pharmacists. So they already got their PharmD, and then there's another couple of years, 1 year or 2 years, they can specialize. So these are the people specializing. And I just felt so good. We've done this 3 or 4 times. Those people now know more about Parkinson's, know the meds. And it's like, they're going all over, I don't know where they're going to be, what hospital or where, but they've got that with them. And I felt like, we're educating both our patients and the pharmacists to know more about it. So, I just feel really good that we keep doing this.
I also think this is important, that this is kind of like your groups. You might start with like a question and you're like, oh, we're going to talk about this today, but then the topic veers. And you know what, as long as everybody got something out of it and enjoyed the discussion, that's really what's most important. This isn't a graded assignment that, I'm going to be like, oh, you didn't follow the rubric, see for your group. That's not what this is. It's like your support group. And it sounds like everybody was happy with what they discussed. And that's what's really most important.
I have one other idea. Am I still able to talk?
Sure.
Okay. One other thing. What we also do, we have contacts with a lot of the nursing homes and a lot of the people the organizations that work with older people and all. What we do is we allow them 5 minutes to talk if they provide us lunch. So they get lunch and bring it in, and they, can provide their information. They can hand out their whatever materials they have and talk about that. So it's a win-win situation. And, I'm inviting people to come to a meeting with lunch. And we're not paying for it.
Yeah. Hey, Eden, quick idea. Well, I think something we're coming away from today's PMD is that shared leadership is very valuable because of energy levels and ideas, and it's great to share the decision-making process, because we are facilitators. We are not, it's not a dictatorship. And really, we're there to move things along. And if you can do it with 2 or 3 other people, I think it's something I've taken away from today. But I still want that succession plan from, I think, group number 2. I don't know who the lady is, but I want to get her email or give her mine. Or is it you, Marge?
No.
Okay.
I don't have that, but I want to say something about what you just said.
It's myself, Irene Miller.
Is it Irene? Okay.
What I shared with Eden is the succession plan is very specific to our group. So I think it would be more beneficial to create a template for a succession plan. And I offered Eden, some help to lead a group that would be interested in creating that document. I mean, I kind of have some ideas of a template, but I think it's always good to have input from others too. And then
So
you can author it and send it out to everybody that way.
Yes, Marge.
Yeah, just want to add that I really do agree with the gentleman who just talked about that the needs change over time and we shouldn't be doing it all ourselves. Because right now, because my husband's needs have changed with his medication, he's going to do brain stimulation. I would love to, not love, but need to find brain stimulation support groups so that I can do a better job of helping both of us through this. It'll be easier if I find people that already have had this experience, because he's going to have it up at University of Penn. But I just know from starting this whole procedure with him that there's different things that their PD care team don't realize, that the caregivers, what the caregivers need to know, like what it's going to be like when they come home and stuff like that. So if we had a deep brain stimulation support group, it would be better for all of us so that we can better take care of our person with Parkinson's and make everybody feel more comfortable with it. And PD care teams can't do it all in the hospitals. And I don't want them to, because they got to do their own. But if we have groups like very beneficial. Yes.
Are there enough people within your support group that have had a DBS that you could create a group within a group?
There's only 5. There's only 5.
Yeah,
there's 5, which I'm surprised at. And this one lady let them off. And I was hoping that the people from the pharmaceutical, the AbbVie who makes it, would start one, because I don't want to, frankly, I don't want to do the support group that I'm doing and then take on another support group, because I feel like I'm spreading myself too thin, because I also am a Parkinson's Aware and Care ambassador and a Michael J. Foxy ambassador, trying to get them to vote on all these different policies and all. But I felt like needed to do that so I would understand everything. But now, with him going to have the deep brain stimulator after 10 years, I just have to, his needs have changed, so have mine. So I need to do a better job figuring out this brain stimulator.
Marge, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
You know that Penn has a DBS support group.
Who could talk about that, Myra?
Pardon?
Who do you recommend I contact about that? Because I can, you know what? I'll ask the lady, the nurse
Suzanne
practitioner.
Reichwein, I don't, well, who do you talk to at Penn? Just, you went to Dr.
Halpern.
Dr. Halpern, right. But they have, I forget which, well, I can send you when it is. Now it's virtual, I think, too. I'll send it to you. I'll send you the link. I'm sorry. I just had a meeting and I had the 3 representatives of the 3 companies, along with ambassadors from the companies, come and talk just last Wednesday. And it was good. Everybody, participated, gave the information, and it worked out.
Myra, put your email address in the chat room and I'll email you.
I don't think I can do it on hopefully I have yours somewhere. I'm on my phone, so I don't see the place where I can put it.
Okay.
Anybody,
I'll find it somehow.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm looking for it right now. I'm Googling it to see if I can find it for you, so I can send you that information.
Okay.
Before we close, so I do want to talk to room 5 real quick. Don Benedict, Frederica Waugh, Joey Kai McDermott, Marge, and Perry. Did you guys have some good discussion?
I'll hop in first if nobody wants to jump in. We had a really good group. We had a variety of people with big groups, small groups, needing help, not needing help. And a couple of takeaways. We also agreed that, doing a co-leader thing is a good way to break up the responsibilities. And if you're having a hard time getting people on board, to maybe start off with giving them small tasks so they're not feeling like they have to jump in 100%. Marge made a good point of giving them things that they're good at So, if somebody's good at tech or communication or whatever the situation will be, and then they can get more comfortable and kind of build into a leadership position. Then we kind of veered off like everybody else did and talked about, some of us are still struggling getting people back to meetings after COVID. And some people are very successful and have really good groups after COVID. The through line that I saw with the people that have successful groups are, they all have a social component to their meetings, which seems to be the most important way to get people to connect with each other individually. So, one person has a pizza party, which I thought was a great idea. Other people have a social time before the meeting actually starts, where they can have refreshments and chit chat amongst themselves. So that seems to be really, really important way to create that intimacy within a group. So that was a real important takeaway from us. Anybody else in our group remember anything we talked about?
No, I think you about covered everything, but I really want to emphasize that we all agreed that we should have co-leaders with the group so that when you get tired or strained from anything or have to make an adjustment like I do because of the deep brain stimulation surgery, that the group continues to go. And it should. And a group like this will help it go, because you'll understand and be rekindled of having the value of these groups by sharing different things. Like today, I just 2 new sources that I can follow up with emails, and that makes me happy.
Did you get my email?
No, I'll take a look. Okay. Thank you.
You got it?
I'll try right now. I'll get it.
We did also have some people put things in the chat, so I encourage everybody. Patrick Losasso, he put his email in. He's running 9 free Parkinson's classes via Zoom. I know Roger also put in, he'd like to invite everyone to a new online only Zoom. So that's all in the chat. So if you want to save your chat, you click on those 3 little dots and then save chat. And this way you'll have all this information. I thank everybody for coming. This month was just a little different. Normally we always meet on the first Monday for this. This past Monday was still the holiday, so we didn't, but moving forward, these will be on the first Monday of every month. And I look forward to seeing everybody.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Marge,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
email me your phone number.